Welcome to Disenthrall. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is our special guest, Matthew Short.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Today we're going to be having a really cool interview with him about all the awesome activism he's been doing recently. And who knows what else might come up, right? So,
awesome.
Go for it.
All right, so just introduce Matthew real quick. Matthew Short is a photographer, revolutionary, activist, and PR director of Come and Take It Texas and Don'tComply.com.
Matthew is tenured in investigating tyranny and doing something about it. From stopping martial law at the Gulf oil spill in Louisiana to infiltrating false flag events and being an intricate part of overturning 140-year Jim Crow laws in Texas. He stood armed in the face of those who would wish to prevent freedom of the American people, helping plan large events against the BLM, Jade Helm, and walks with the open carry movement. He's opened public parks when Gooberment closed them, and he continues to say, "Show me more." His biggest goal is not being complacent when good men should be standing. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I got this nice round table. We can have a little round table discussion this afternoon.
We're on one side and the viewer is on the other.
Yeah, right.
You know, we're all together, right?
Nice.
So you just got back from camping. How was that?
I did. I inhaled a bunch of smoke from the campfire. I burned meat on it. Drank some beer. Went fossil hunting.
Nice.
And a lot of times I have to get away from the lights and cameras and stuff, and so I like to go stare at the ground and dig in the dirt.
There you go. Nice. There you go. I guess before we get into it, I think we're going to start with our 5 questions that we like to start with for guests to kind of find out where they fit on the political spectrum. We have a montage.
All right, Murdoch, so we are standing in front of the Capitol and doing what?
Manufacturing firearms.
We got probably about 30, 40 cars surrounding us right now. There's almost more police at this point in time than there is protesters. Hey everybody, welcome back YouTube. It's the Show Me Baby. We put on this event this weekend because evidently the Bureau of Land Management doesn't know where Texas is. This truly is the problem and with our economy and what it's doing to people in this country. Just showing again what a need we have in our cities for people to come out and help one another. Solidarity with Baltimore, protest, drawing near an end. From what I can understand, there's been no arrests so far. We have been open carrying. There's been no provocateuring. We pointed a couple out in the crowd. And so far, the Dallas police have actually been pretty professional and holding back.
Fit the breathe is all I'm saying. Every fucking Rockefeller's bound to get your bullet. Rig the UN building with some thermite.
All right. So that is the Matthew Short. So where do you sit kind of on the political spectrum of communist to anarchist?
Definitely way more on the anarchist side. I think I do a lot of study of history and a lot of reading of founding father material, and I really enjoy this experiment that we have deemed America. I think freedom is extremely important, and here in this country, we were supposed to be the kings of our own castles. And before this great experiment we call America, there were sovereigns who had serfs and peoples under them. But here we're supposed to be the sovereigns and the kings of our own castles and have servants that act for us. That's been overturned in the last 100, 200 years, and we've really come away from the idea of what we were supposed to be living in freedom. And so that's kind of where I land. I'm somewhere between libertarian and anarchist capitalist.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we like to start out with 5 questions. You want to kick them off?
Sure. All right, so first question is, how do you define a free market?
Taxation is theft. Making rules like, really, free market. You have something like the Silk Road that was out there that people are going to prison for now, and it was because those in control don't have the reach to take from people. If I want to sell you a gun, or if I want to go and buy drugs, or if I want to do anything, I shouldn't have to go to a place where the Gooberment has deemed it appropriate for me to go and do that. I should be able to walk down the street, get what I need, and live my life with my life, liberty, and my property.
Nice.
Nice. Number 2. Do we have a free market today?
No, we have a crony capitalist socialistic market today.
All right. How would you define like libertarian? What you kind of describe yourself? It sounds like you're in a kind of a minarchist position, small government as possible, or just some other differently organized government. Where are you on that?
I want to say that I'm an ANCAP for the most part, but I do think that because of the defense of the people and because of there are just becoming problems where you might have a group of people who want to steal the inalienable rights from others, that there should be a servant class that takes care of the will of the people at points in time. I think that can be done without taxation. I think that can be done without force, because any of these things that we have out there that the government is trying to force on people, it's wrong. Just because they have a title or have an entitlement society doesn't mean that they then have the right to force me or anybody else to do anything. Shiny badges don't grant extra rights, but that's the way it's treated these days.
So with no income in the form of taxation, would a government really even exist? I mean, how would it exist? Volunteers?
I guess if I was to say that, I think that as a servant class, people would have voluntary time where they go and do that. I guess I haven't fully really thought about that a lot, but you have people that are sitting in the legislature at the federal level who they've made careers out of being there for 30, 40 years. People like John McCain, who says that he's this great conservative fighter for the people, but he's been caught up funding ISIS and others right alongside of Hillary Clinton and Obama and others. So you look at these people and they're not there to serve the will of the people. They're there to serve their own special interest.
Definitely.
Okay. So you're basically talking about not having any political rulers at all, just basically a group of volunteers that help facilitate what do you think is kind of in the proper purview of, see, what you're describing to me doesn't even sound like a government, because a government involves, a group of people controlling us. And what you're describing isn't really a government because there's no control there.
Nothing voluntary.
Right.
In government at all.
That's a hard one because we're so far gone from what constitutionally America was supposed to be anyway. And you get leaders like President Bush who said that Constitution is just a piece of paper he basically could wipe his ass with. And I think that's the way the people treat it. They're not oath keepers. They're not people who are keeping their oaths to what they were supposed to be doing. They're doing everything they can to get around it and serve their own purposes instead of serving the people's.
All right. Do you vote?
No, I don't.
You don't vote. Why?
Probably since I watched the election stole from Ron Paul, I realized how much of a farce that it is. And so I think voting on a local level is okay. I think that right now in the time period that we live in, a good way to I've heard libertarians say that I'm wrong by saying taking it back, but taking back our freedom is good by electing people in your local towns, your local counties, putting a constitutional sheriff and putting somebody who is going to serve the will of the people and not serve the feds, not serve those who are in the Gooberment. And I keep saying the word Gooberment. You guys probably see me say that online all the time. And the reason I say that is because the root word Goobermente is Latin, and it means something to the effect of those who wish to control. So you have people who are goobers who are out there pulling all this crap on us because they want to control. And, on the other side of it, I think in the perfect world, you'd have people there that would be in service to the people, taking care of their real problems, not trying to be there stealing from us.
So at a local level, are you good with taxation is theft only for federal, or are you kind of universal on that?
There's always this argument.
Just gonna keep poking.
Who would build the roads? Who would?
Yeah.
I really do believe taxation is theft.
Okay.
I mean, at a certain level, if you were doing the will of the people, I think there would probably be a time to go and have a vote about something. But where you're actually, whether it's town halls or whatever, some people don't care. They just live their lives. They let people control them. And I'm not sure that I really have an answer for that. We are one of the greatest nations as far as being a people who are willing to give.
That is true.
And we give so much to other nations. We give so much to people around us. Some of the things that you listed off that I've been a part of and that I've done, I've watched whole cities and whole counties come together and throw so much money and belongings at the people who actually need it. I think that it could be done without the threat of force or violence or caging people to steal that money from them.
I heard recently that America as a whole, speaking like all the people in America have combined given as much to charity as the entire gross product 1 year in the 20s. So like back in the roaring 20s, inflation adjusted dollars, so we're not talking about $1920, inflation adjusted dollars, America has given more to charity through welfare, through programs, through foreign aid, through all this stuff, more than the entire working productivity of every man and woman in the country in the roaring 20s. Like, that's huge.
It's very huge.
Yeah.
So where's our tax money going?
Well,
because they tax the hell out of us to the tune of trillions, and
that was kind of what that point was. Like, if we can give money on that level to welfare programs and stuff like that, and still be right where we were back in, maybe even worse in some ways back in the 20s, as far as poverty and things go, that should tell you that funneling all this money through a government is not what creates the change that we're looking for. Because all of that money that I'm talking about, welfare and all that stuff, was funneled through this machine that is the government.
Yeah, and before 1913, before we really got into the whole Federal Reserve beast system, we still had a military that kicked ass. We still had roads. We still had working services. But these banksters, they create a central bank, and then they decide that even while printing our money, they were going to charge us to print it. And we're going into debt just by creating their Federal Reserve note instead of having a silver certificate or a gold certificate or a dollar based in the Treasury. Now, if we had a dollar based in the Treasury, Congress would have everything in the world to do because they're always there creating bills, right? In those words, they're supposed to be managing the purse.
Yeah.
But instead of managing the purse, they're managing our lives. And since the Federal Reserve's come around and we had Social Security numbers and we had birth certificates come out, now our money's not based off of any physical assets anymore. It's based off of our sweat and our tears and our blood.
Yes. Speaking of money, we were talking earlier before we started streaming about taking money for activism, and you were very strongly, you came out and you said, I don't want to take money from activism. Why? No special interest groups own me. I want to be someone who owns myself. I want to be someone who, if I'm impassioned about these ideas and the things that I do, I don't want it to be because somebody called me up and they're like, hey, we gave you a check and we need you to be down there and like run around with these activists. We're seeing that happen a lot in the race for the 2016 president, where activists are being paid to go start fights with other groups of people. And in the activism world, I think that it's really a place to lose your soul if you're doing that. As far as other activists that I know, many of them, they do YouTube channels like we're on right now. They put a lot of work into it. There's some advertising and stuff that I agree with on that. Obviously, you put hours and hours and hours of work into getting out a 10-minute video. Yeah.
And that is work. And I believe in a man being able to make money from his work, but I don't accept money from other people. Don't Comply started doing donations. Most of the time, those donations go into the activism as far as props that we might need. We're got some props we're probably going to be bringing out here pretty soon. And making sure that the website streams and that sort of deal. And then, especially with like the Don't Comply crew that I do PR work with, we all have jobs.
Yeah.
And we work 40-hour weeks, and then we do all of this stuff on top of it. So a lot of our time is taken up by it, but nobody else is going to own me by telling me that I should go do activism because I'm being paid to do it.
Yeah, like what I guess my position on that is like, yes, it takes a crap load of resources, all the equipment, the stream time, the bandwidth, the set, whatever you put together requires a lot of time and a lot of money. And then just the content itself. So if I try and put together a 10-minute monologue, I probably have 6 hours of work before that monologue even gets started, just designing it, writing it, tweaking it, making sure it's good, reading it to my friends, saying, hey, do you have any comments? Do you have any feedback? Then you actually, buy the props, like the wig and all the stupid stuff that we did recently. And then, and then you do your 10 minutes, and then you got another probably 4 hours of editing on the back end. So like, for every 10 minutes, there's probably 8 hours, 12, 15 hours of work involved there.
But for one of our Don't Comply shows, a lot of times a 2-hour show takes about 6 hours to produce.
Yeah.
And put together.
And I totally see where you're coming from about taking money from advertisers, taking money from certain groups. What I like doing though, and what I think is totally justified, is taking money from the general anonymous public, like individuals. And when I say take, I mean accepting donations from. And that's because I remember a long time ago, there was a guy that was making some really great content. It was really meaningful to me. It was helpful. I wanted to help him create more because at that time I didn't have the time or the resources or the money to put something together to do it myself. And so by donating, by giving my money to him, in a way, I became sort of part of his activism.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm being an activist now by donating money to this guy. And so if you accept donations from individuals, you're sort of allowing whoever wants to out there that doesn't have time or resources or no knowledge or skills or whatever to do it themselves to sort of become part of your activism. And that's really cool. I think that's important.
I do agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So
support your local activists.
There you go. This guy, we'll put some links in the descriptions of the video for this. What's next? And
even if people can't, we always make calls out for the places we're going. Sometimes people don't have a ride there. Jump in a car and give them a ride that time. Because the things that we've been a part of really, I believe, has changed history. And that is worth more to me than money or gold or silver or Federal Reserve notes or any of that stuff. Because we're doing something to change the world, hopefully, for a better reason. And, what do you have in this world when everything is gone? You don't have money. You don't have these things. Love and friendships and making your mark on history, I think, is something that we leave behind.
Changing the world for the better.
For the better.
Improving the world for your kids is a legacy that I definitely am like devoted to. That's really one of the main drivers of the reason why I do this. I want to make the world a better place with the short amount of time I have on this planet,
What will your legacy be?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've done some really cool stuff recently, one of which we covered. We were at the Katy Trail Walk for Lives. Is that what it's called? The Katy Walk for Lives?
Yeah.
And that was actually, that was the first time I had even heard of the open carry movement in Texas. So forget every other reason why you could have done that. Just the awareness of the movement was enough to me. Like a lot of people are saying, and even I was interviewing people asking the question, how is this going to help anything? Like, how is walking down the Katy Trail going to help anything towards this cause? And I wasn't answering my own questions, but for me, it made me aware of a movement to open carry, which I didn't even know existed. Did you get that question? Like, and how would you have answered that?
I'm not sure, and I will say that it helped because you have people online. With social media, we go over this in our personal show all the time, but in social media and stuff, you have everybody in the world that says, "Oh, I would go and do this, and I would go and do that," and they don't go and do shit. But one thing that I will say is the open carry movement in Texas is one of the biggest grassroots movements since probably the 1950s and 60s when bad racism really changed and the integration of our society, which should be, took place. Not making a certain class of people drink from the wrong drinking fountain and bullshit like that. And we literally have had thousands and thousands of people who got off of their chair and picked up their gun and they went out for a walk. Putting feet on the streets instead of sitting there and just being a commentator and watching the world go by is how we changed the law. And having all those people involved. And there for a couple of years, that's all you saw in the news for day in and day out. Open carry activists, again, out walking around with their guns. This week, open carry is scary. This week, and it just went on until finally we hammered them down. We wanted constitutional carry, but we hammered them down to having to accept the law being changed because the will of the people was there. And they then tried to deliver it to us in the form of a tax with the permission slip from the state to carry, which is still ridiculous. I can go and carry an AK-47 down the street without a permit.
But not a pistol.
Which is way less scarier and less cumbersome and easier to do.
More practical.
And that was always our argument. Like, why are you carrying around an AK-47? Well, I can't carry a pistol, so...
That's all I can do.
Never thought about it like that. That's interesting.
That's one of the things I love doing in activism and being PR guy with these groups is trying to figure out, well, okay, the law does say this, so how can we prove our point by walking around and then when the media is going to ask us about it, we're going to be like, well, since you asked.
Yeah, that's good. So let's talk about open carry. I had the same conversation with Brett recently. Open carry versus concealed carry. What are your thoughts? Like tactically, in a situation, which would you prefer and why?
Well, concealed carry is tactically better because that's why the cops do it, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
I mean, if it was tactically better, you wouldn't see cops walking around. And what it is the media, in my opinion, the media and the Gooberment, those who wish to control, they are out there trying to make all these arguments because they don't want the people to be sovereign. They don't want us to have that power in our own hands. They don't want to look at us and think that we have power against them. Because I'll tell you, I've been to a lot of protests and a lot of different things. I'm a tenured activist now. And in the last couple of years, we've done the open carry stuff. I saw people arrested, beaten, pepper sprayed, all up until we got into the open carry movement. And a few guys got arrested, and very quickly the police realized that they might arrest one guy with a gun, but they never saw the guy with the gun standing behind them. And it came to a point where we've had the DPS at the Capitol come up and talk to me and Murdoch, and they're like, well, thanks for being nice today, guys, because, you had us out-armed. And we're like, we're not here to have a war with you yet. We're here, like, our founding fathers, when they
Did you say yet?
Yet. And hopefully we don't have to.
Slid that in there.
Hopefully we don't have to.
I was wondering if I heard that correctly.
When the king came and told the people before the revolution they weren't allowed to have guns anymore, he was literally taking their power away from them. And what did they do? They started walking in the streets with their firearms, and the Lexington Concord happened. And I think at times we thought maybe that would happen with the open carry movement, but it hasn't. It's actually grown. And now you have groups in Indiana, Washington, Oregon, Arkansas, Missouri, West Virginia, Kansas that have all gone on the same route. And a lot of those states have now been changing their laws to favor gun rights for the people. So you take the power of the government and the police, and to me it's retarded to look at it differently. But when the people have the ability to protect themselves, their persons, their property, their family, they then stand on the same level. And we went from watching activists get beat up to things not happening at protests. And everybody ends up redressing their grievances and going home. And we went from cops being upset with us to now shaking our hands because they have no other recourse than to meet us on the same level playing field because we're armed and we're not there initiating the fight. But there are a whole lot of people that aren't afraid of that fight because of what this country and this nation is supposed to stand for and the will of the people.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think, to be fair, that I don't think cops can conceal carry because, I mean, if you see a badge, you're pretty much sure that guy's carrying a gun. So I think that if they have an undercover cop, they're probably concealed carrying. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you were going into an area where you didn't feel safe, would you open or conceal?
I don't have a license.
Okay.
But I do, at times, conceal and or open carry. Just with work, or other times if I'm holding on to somebody's money and I'm having to go buy supplies or something. I did remodeling for a lot of years, and I might have a customer give me $10,000 in cash, but that money's not mine. I have to go buy wood floor or glue with it or something like that. And there's days like that I will carry a gun on me, whether the state asks me to or not. Free men do not ask permission to bear arms.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out like which one you think is better in a dangerous situation. Personally, you know, if you don't know an answer, you don't have to. Because I've been trying to figure it out for myself. I've like over the past few weeks have been open carrying more, and
personally, I think open carry is tactically the best way all the way around. Most people are going to wear a holster on their good arm. So whether you're right-handed or left-handed, I'm right-handed. So when I do open carry, I keep one here, and throughout the normal day, your arms are usually down. People aren't just going to be able to come up and take your gun from you. That's why it doesn't happen to cops all the time. And you have that argument people throw out there all the time. Well, if a bad guy comes in, he sees you with the gun, he's shooting you first. But I would beg the difference, say that gun-free zones are the place where criminals go to prey on people because they're going to go somewhere where they don't think people are armed. They're going to go somewhere where they think they have the tactical advantage. And the sight of a gun alone will stop a criminal from doing what he's going to do.